Brilliance Audio.
In the Midnight Rain by Barbara O'Neill. Performed by Kristen Ariza. The sky was overcast and threatening rain by the time Ellie Connor made it to Gideon at 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening. She was tired of driving, tired of spinning the radio dial every 40 miles. Why did the preaching stations always seem to have the longest signal? Tired of the sight of white lines swooping under her tires. She'd started out this morning at 7, planning to arrive in Gideon by mid-afternoon in her unfashionable but generally reliable Buick. She'd had a cute little Toyota for a while, but her work often took her to small towns across America, and if there were problems on the road, she had discovered it was far better to drive American. Since she'd lost a gasket in the wilds of deepest Arkansas, this was the trip that proved the rule. The gasket had delayed her arrival by 3 hours, but at last she took a right off the highway and drove through a small East Texas town that was closing itself down for the evening. She had to stop at a gas station to get directions to the house, but finally she turned onto a narrow road made almost claustrophobic by the thick trees that crept right up to its edge. It hadn't been paved in a lot of years, and Ellie counted her blessings. At least she didn't have to look at dotted lines anymore. Something interfered with the radio, and she turned it off with a snap. "Almost there, darlin'," she said to her dog, April, who sat in the seat next to her. April lifted her nose to the opening in the window, blinking against the wind, or maybe in anticipation of finally escaping the car. Half husky and half border collie, the dog was good-natured, eternally patient, and very smart. Ellie reached over to rub her ears and came away with a handful of molting dog fur. As the car rounded a bend in the road, the land opened up to show sky and fields. A break in the fast-moving clouds overhead suddenly freed a single flame of sunlight, bright gold against the purpling canvas of sky. Treetops showed black against the gold, intricately lacy and detailed, and for a minute Ellie forgot her weariness. She leaned over the steering wheel, feeling a stretch along her shoulders, and admired the sight. "Beautiful," she said aloud. Ellie's grandmother would have said it was a finger of God. Of course, Geraldine Connor saw the finger of God in just about everything, but Ellie hoped it was a good omen. April whined, pushing her nose hard against the crack in the window, and Ellie took pity and pushed the button to lower the passenger side glass. April stuck her head out gleefully, letting her tongue loll in the wind, scenting only heaven knew what dog pleasures on that soft air. Handicapped by human olfactory senses, Ellie smelled only the first weeds of summer and the coppery hints of the Sabine River that ran somewhere beyond the dense trees. The road bent, leaning into a wide, long curve that ended abruptly in an expanse of cleared land. And there, perched atop a rise, was the house, an imposing and boxy structure painted white. Around it spread wide, verdant grass, and beyond the lawn a collection of long, serious-looking greenhouses. Trees met the property in a protective circle, giving it the feeling of a walled estate. Roses in a gypsy profusion of color lined the porch and drive. Ellie smiled. It was a house with a name, naturally. Fox River, which she supposed was a play on the name of the owner, Laurence Reynard. Dr. Reynard, in fact, though she didn't know what the doctorate was in. She knew little of him at all, apart from the email letters she'd received and the notes he'd posted in a blues news group. In those writings, he was by turns eccentric and brilliant. She suspected he drank. She'd been corresponding with him for months about Gideon and Mabel Beauvais, a blues singer native to the town, a mysterious and romantic figure who was the subject of Ellie's latest biography. Ellie had had some reservations about accepting Reynard's offer to stay in his guest house while she completed her research, but the truth was she did not travel without her dog, and it was sometimes more than a little difficult to find a rental that didn't charge an arm and a leg extra for her.